Hey, what's up, everybody? Video 44 coming at you with another video. All right, so I've done homework on two more prospects. I'm continuing on that. It's so much to do in regards to basketball right now with the playoffs going on, but I'm still kind of head first in my first round draft homework. I'm actually planning on doing both rounds as it pertains to homework, but we'll see how everything goes as it pertains to these videos. So, ironically enough, with that being said, one of the prospects that I did homework on most recently was not listed on Tankathon in the first round. I woke up yesterday morning and saw on YouTube, as I was trying to search around for random stuff, a name by the name of Okorie, a point guard, and they said that his draft stock was rising. So my thinking was I better get familiar with this player early if he is indeed rising. Now that was probably clickbait to a degree when I look back on it, but immediately I reacted to it like, all right, if there's a second round prospect that's going to adjust my thinking about the first round, I probably want to know who that is. If somebody is going to push up, I need to know them early. So that's what I did. I took yesterday to focus on Okorie, and today I focused on Ademara. So we'll talk about both of those players. Okorie, 6'2", 185. He reminds me of Aaron Brooks. If you remember Aaron Brooks from the Houston Rockets days, he torched my Lakers. In fact, the last time we lost to the Rockets in the playoffs, Aaron Brooks was the one who basically sent us home. That was probably like in '02 or something like that. Nah, that's not right. Maybe like I don't remember. God, I had to be in my 20s, so who knows? This was back in the day, though. But this guy was a little guard who dropped 40 on your head at like 6'1", 6 feet. Slight dude. He probably didn't weigh no more than 165, but he would just cook. Okorie kind of looks like him a little bit. It's a guy, Okorie, who shot 46% from the field, 35% from three, 83% from the free throw line. Average about 3 boards, 3 assists, 1 steal, 23 points in 31 minutes from Stanford. And so what I took from him is that this is a deadly killer. He's a killer, man. Now, he does have some things he has to work on. The turnovers could be better. His slight frame makes it so that he's not exactly the greatest finisher around the rim. But you don't find yourself too concerned about that because the playmaking ability's there. The ability to get to the line consistently is there. This is another guy that's been compared to Dennis Schroeder. I've been hearing Dennis Schroeder comparisons a lot with several guards in this round, and this is another guy that people say reminds them of Dennis Schroeder. He's just a little guy that can really cook. I like his ball handling ability. Looks like the ball is on a string. He's fast and quick as it comes, and just a relentless at driving at the rim for his size, and then he can cook you from behind the arc. Now, one thing I did notice about what was said there in regards to Okorie is that he tends to not shoot too many mid-range jumpers. It's either 3 or layup with him. So that could be a thing that maybe you want to kind of focus on, allowing for more drills that kind of just exploit a bit more of his ability to shoot in the mid-range. More so than what Stanford was looking at. Another thing about Stanford that needs to be understood is that Okorie didn't play with a lot of talent around him, and also the spacing was not very good on a lot of the tape, so that kind of crowded him out and maybe would otherwise have inflated some of the numbers on the turnovers and some of the other things that didn't go right for him. So, he's a guy who's a transfer candidate, just as he is a candidate to be in the league. He could also stand to go to a bigger program with more talent around him. That's worked for some of these prospects as well. In fact, Ade is a guy who did that, and it's really worked out for him. But Okorie just looked like a killer to me, man. When you talk about the guy that you could put on the floor that in a big game situation could potentially go crazy. Now, one of the cons on Okorie as well is that he does have these games where he goes 1 for 13, 1 for 14. He could tend to be that kind of guy where he can run really cold but stay aggressive. Not my favorite way of doing things, but he remains aggressive whether he's hitting shots or not. But the free throw shooting is pretty good. 83% is excellent. And his ability to play make for others. He didn't have a lot of talent around him, so his assist numbers didn't really show up like that. Guys wouldn't just necessarily connect or what have you, but the passing is there. The drafting, draft age, he's going to be 19 on draft day, so you feel great about that. He's still a young guy. I really like what I saw from him in the highlights, man. This was just a complete and utter killer. He just continued to just come at you. He could dribble well in traffic, which is a skill in and of itself. And because he's low to the ground, he's a problem in that regard. And then on the defensive end, he has some talent. Just like we said about Anderson, he's a guy who has that similar ability, who could probably guard some guys who are similar in size, steals the ball very well. So he's not a one-way guy. He actually has some defensive chops that you want to explore. So overall, I really like what I saw from Okorie, man. At the end of the day, he's still a developing young guy, obviously, so you expect for there to be some learning curve. And the height makes it so that he's going to get targeted at times defensively. That could be a bit of a problem in the NBA. But he does have some defensive talent, and he does have solid weight for his height. I guess 185. He's not rail thin, but he is thin. And he's fairly strong for his size, So I think that overall, this is a nice young prospect at the point guard position who is going to run up the score. There are going to be some cold nights, but if he has enough talent around him, rim protectors and defensive players and stuff like that, he can be a part of a really nice unit. I expect for him to be six-man candidate type of guy. I don't know that he's going to be a starter in every situation, but he's going to run it up. He kind of reminded me of a lot of guys in that mold. Isaiah Thomas, the smaller one, he reminded me of him a little bit, although Isaiah ended up mastering all three levels. And Isaiah is much smaller than this guy. But he kind of, he attacks that way, kind of a surgeon, with the ball in his hands, that kind of thing. Okorie is going to attack well. That's what I see. Dennis Schroeder, Aaron Brooks. It's a lot of guys that are of that mold that you would compare him to. And I just think he's going to be nice. But the thing about him that makes him a little different is his ability on the defensive end. He's not going to just be a guy that only scores and on the defensive end is constantly getting cooked. He's going to stay in front of his man. He moves laterally pretty well. And I think that ultimately this is a hell of a piece to add to a situation where you need scoring off your bench, scoring in the guard spot, somebody who's going to potentially develop into somebody who could potentially take over a game, score 15 points in the fourth quarter, that type of thing. Just cook, get to the line a lot, shoot the three ball pretty well. It's not the 3-point percentage, 35%, that's fair, but the eye test tells you he's even better than that. Cook with the ball in his hands, can do some things off ball as well with the catch and shoot stuff. Attacking off of closeouts pretty well. So, yeah, this is going to be a talented small guard. And I like Okorie. I think he's going to be, what came to mind for me was killer. This is somebody who's going to take your soul out. When he learns how to be more efficient, he's going to run the score up. You're going to put him in the game, be up by 2, and all of a sudden you're up by 15. And because he done ran up the score and just attacked really, really fast and got people in foul trouble. So, yeah, this is somebody that you should take somewhere at the end of the first round, early second round. I think it all balances out. I think his value is kind of limited by the fact that there are other guards that kind of do the same thing he does in this range, who may have bigger names based on their schools. I think that's going to be a thing. Like Anderson's probably going to have a bigger name than him. Of course, some of these guys at the top of the draft, bigger names just off the strength of the cachet. But I think if he were to stay in school and go to one of those schools next season where the draft is going to be a little less talented, you could potentially see him going in the 15 range, maybe in the lottery. So I like Abuka Okorie either way. If he comes out, I think he's talented enough to contribute to an NBA team. He could be a nice player already, I think. And if he stays in school, I think his value could potentially go up based on what we've already said here. So I like Okorie a lot. I do. I don't know that I take him with my Laker pick based on what our needs as a team is and based on what else could be on the board. But in a lot of situations where you could use a small guard, score the ball, somebody who can run it up, help you on the defensive end, be just good enough defensively as a small guard to not be completely targeted and exploited or what have you. Somebody who can kind of match a guy like Dennis Schroeder bucket for bucket if it comes down to something like that, who's going to fill in well for your starting point guard while he's out for a month. This guy can have a breakout month or what have you. I think that's who Ibuka Okorie ultimately is to me. I've heard some people compare him to Kyrie a little bit because of the ball handling. I wouldn't do that, but he does have above average ball handling. And yeah, like I said, I see, for me, is immediately he looks like Aaron Brooks. And if you remember Aaron Brooks, you have a whole lot of respect for what he was able to do in his prime. His prime was short-lived. He only had a couple seasons where he was considered really good, but my Lakers were the ones where he shined the most. In the playoffs against us, he was relentless. He killed us, man. We were terrorized by this little dude. So if anybody respects him, it's people my age who are Laker fans. And so that's who I see with Okorie. And yeah, this guy's gonna be a problem. And he's great value if you get him early second round. Great value. So that's what I will say. I think Ibuka Okorie is gonna have a nice long career in the NBA. And if for some reason it doesn't work out in the NBA, he's definitely a pro somewhere making money doing this for certain. Absolutely for certain. And probably one of the best players on an overseas team if for some reason it doesn't work out in the league. So yeah, Okorie, he's in the right spot. Playing ball, and hopefully people won't be scared away by his slight frame. They say he's 6'2". I wouldn't be surprised if he's not 6'2", but that's just me talking. He has decent length. I think he has 6'2" length, so that's fair, I guess, for a 6'2" guy his size. And he uses his hands well. Like I said, defensively he can get steals and stuff like that. He averages more than almost 2 steals a game, so that's a strength of his. So this is a two-way small guy. Like him a lot. Definitely somebody I would take in the very top of the second round. Very top of the second round. Depending on what else is out there, of course, because I have homework to do. So for all I know, that shifts. But at this point, I really like him. I really, really do. All right. So the next player is of course, Ade Mara out of Spain. He's a junior. He spent his first 2 years at UCLA. From what I understand, scouts didn't really love what they saw out of him from UCLA. He transferred to Michigan and had a fantastic season where they won the national championship. He had a massive to-do with that. A 7'3" center with 7'7" wingspan. He's playing volleyball out there, man. That's the first thing that I want to say before we get into anything else. He is absolutely playing volleyball out there. It's getting swatted. He averaged 2.6 blocks a game. And he had shot blockers around him. He had rebounders around him. Only averaged about 6 rebounds a game. But again, that's skewed by the fact that he had people around him who were doing the same thing he did. If those players aren't present, those numbers go up, in my opinion. So much information. They had more video on Ade Mara at this point than any other prospect that I've seen outside of the top 4. And I've been able to get some good stuff, but I didn't even get a chance to watch all of the stuff that was available. I did listen to about 2 hours or so. I watched about 25 minutes of him this morning. The next thing I want to mention about Ade Mara is he's a terrible free throw shooter. Shot about 49% from the free throw line, and it's only getting worse as the seasons progress. He is really going to need to be focused on becoming a good free throw shooter if he wants, or at least a solid free throw shooter, if he wants to not get played off the floor, because it's a hack-a-mara at this point. If he's out there in the fourth quarter, hack him. He cannot hit free throws. And he can help his team in a lot of areas, but you are not going to be able to play him on an NBA floor in certain situations against certain coaches. They're going to send him to the line, and he's not going to hit them. So that's the biggest con of all the cons of this player. And he has a few, but the biggest is the free throw shooting. It's not even reasonable. He and Jaden Quaintance are just the worst free throw shooters. They're horrible, both of them. So that's the thing. But Ade Mara is about 255 pounds, and I love the passing stuff. The passing stuff is really, really high level. he not only has fantastic floor vision, but he also has fantastic rhythm and timing on his passes. He can see over the defense with his 7'3" frame, and he can make bounce passes, long passes, full court. He can whip the ball from one side to the next, although that's not something you probably want to do. He's pretty accurate with everything that he does, and he sees everything. So if you have him playing on a team like OKC where he has nothing but weapons, his assist numbers, he's probably going to assist so often that it just fits right in with what they already have. You know, obviously OKC has Hartenstein. This guy would not even drop off at all. You put him in the game, he's basically another Hartenstein. Now the thing about him though, the difference between him and Hartenstein is uber energetic. And this guy is got to work on his conditioning significantly so that energy can be kept up for 48 minutes. At this point, you only expect to keep him out there for 22 minutes, but that's consistent with players like him. You know, you compare him a lot to the guy that was taken out of Portland last year, to Portland rather, Donovan Clingan. Of course, you compare him to Zach Edey as well. He looks like Zach Edey, not as heavy as Zach Edey, doesn't establish paint post presence like Zach Edey, or have the touch of Zach Edey, but he does have fantastic touch. He passes significantly better than Zach Edey. So it's kind of he's like a Zach Edey Clingan combo in a way. He has some of the same stuff that Clingan has as it pertains to shot blocking. Fantastic. He's a much better defender than Edey. More along the lines of a defender like Clingan. And the thing about Ademar that also stood out for me was he's quicker of foot than those people. He has faster feet than Edey. He has faster feet than Clingan. He has faster feet than some of the guys that you see at 7'3". In this regard, and this is going to sound like a little bit of a stretch, but he kind of remind me of Evan Mobley. Evan Mobley's not nearly as big as he is, and Evan Mobley has much quicker feet. But you look at a guy like Evan Mobley, you don't expect for his feet to be as quick as they are. You look at a guy like Ademar, and you don't expect his feet to be as quick as they are. There was a play that I saw in the highlights where on one end of the game, he lobbed the ball from, say, inside the three-point line to his power forward. The power forward muffed the dunk on the lob. Ade was the first man back to contest the shot. And he's on the floor with athletes. He's on the floor with people much smaller than him, and he was the first guy back. So I think what we're seeing here is a guy who's already been working on his conditioning throughout the course of the season. I watched footage of some of his earlier games, and I watched footage of later games and some videos that kind of collage him that way. And it just seemed like he got a lot faster over the course of the season, and it seems like he's improved a great deal from where he was at UCLA, where people considered him soft. People considered him somebody who needed to work on his conditioning and just didn't have a whole lot of chops at UCLA. But the reality was he just needed to go to the Michigan situation where he would be accompanied by board players who help what he does, and then more so have a development program for centers that allow for him to get the opportunities to look his best. So that's really what it was. He decided to stay in school for his junior season. It was great for his draft stock because ultimately he got a chance to just be exploited in positive ways and be a part of a much better basketball team. He played with Morez Johnson, hyper-athletic rebounding guy that we've yet to do homework on. He's also going to be coming up in a few days. I'm sure we'll be talking about him very soon. And, of course, he plays with Yaxel Lindenberg, also a fantastic shot-blocking power forward athlete, who rebounds and blocks shots. So it was like, if he has that stuff next to him, he can flourish. I'm curious to know what he looks like without that stuff next to him. Is it more like UCLA? You got to take the fullness of his entire college career into account. That's basically 2 bad seasons without that stuff and 1 really good season with that stuff. So it's like, throughout the course of 3 seasons in the NBA, am I to expect that 2 of those seasons aren't going to be any good? Is it all dependent on him having that stuff next to him? Yeah, the numbers go up, but does the success stay that way if he doesn't have surrounding players that can help him with those areas? This is why I'm inclined to want him to be on a team like OKC, like Cleveland, where you got so many other players on the roster that accompany him in what he does, where he's not fully relied upon to play a full game or even start a lot of the time. If he's a guy that is expected to play a full game, he may not necessarily make it through a full season. So that's my concern. I don't necessarily want him to come into a shallow center situation. Now that's gonna sound rich coming from a Laker fan who needs a center, and if he's available, I take him with the 25th pick. That's where we're at this point. I don't know if it's going to shake out that way. We'll see what happens tonight with the playing tournament games. But Lakers going to be drafting somewhere between 23 and 26 or something like that. If Ademar is on the board, all things remaining equal, you must take him. But I'm going to tell you the truth, as a Laker fan also, I don't think he's going to be on the board. If you're thinking that you need Ademar as a part of your future as a Laker fan, there's like 8 or 9 teams that should want him before you even get a chance to get him. Chicago has fans. Every video that I watched, there was somebody in there saying they wanted him to play for the Bulls. It would be a bit of a reach for the Warriors, but at this point they pick at 11. I don't think it's crazy that maybe they trade down to get him. Like I said, OKC is a great fit, but they're going to have to pick it a little for a lot of bigs. And I think all the bigs that are in this draft pretty much fit at OKC. But he's one that fits very well. And, you talk about a Chicago team that has 2 picks in the top 15. So it's like, I think that people are going to probably take some of these bigs before people expect them to. So, I don't know this, but my gut tells me that the bigs are going to be off the board before the guards are, within reason. Of course, Acuff, Wagler, Brown, they're all, the top 10 guards, the guys in the lottery are probably going to be taken somewhere within the lottery. But once you start getting 15, 16, 17, 18, I think you're going to see people like Sanak get taken soon. Mara gets taken sooner. Gongba's probably going to be gone soon. And I think people like Christian Anderson and Bennett Sturts are likely still going to be on the board in the 25, 26 range because it's just a need, in my opinion, for these bigs. When you look at what the league is turning into, if you don't have a big that can provide some size, provide some defense, some rim protection, you're just not that great of a defensive team, and a lot of these teams really need to improve defensively. So you look at teams like New York, who's had success with rim protecting bigs. I don't think they pass on Mara if he's available at 24 just before us. 76ers, who have so much trouble with their center position, with obviously, Joel constantly out. Adam Bona, he's not really like that. And then you look at Drummond, who's probably going to be leaving the league soon. You need to be getting the center if you're the 76ers. You do need to try to take Ademar. They draft before us. I think Detroit would love to have a center, even though they have centers. They the size and the ability to beat people up is always something they value. A guy like Ademar is huge. He's packing everything. That's only going to help their situation with their depth. So, like, if you're the Lakers, the Toronto Raptors have been passing on centers for years. They need a center. They're at 20 at this point. There's no way in hell they let Ademar pass them up or Chris Sanak pass them up this season, I'd imagine. They need a damn center. So it's a lot of teams that need Ademar. That's essentially what I'm saying. The Lakers are one of them, but I just don't think it's realistic that he'll be available when we draft. I definitely do not think it. Guys like Jaden Quaintance, I think, are going to fall. Some of these guys are going to be gone. But you never know, man. Some people really like some of these guards that I think probably should be left on the boards for centers. Who knows, I'm a believer that, some of these guards can just be lived without. Even if they are, like, lottery talent. There's so many guards in this league, you can live without some of these dudes, man. You can get them on the back end 3 years from now when they get waived because there's a logjam. Like, that's my take on guards. And if most people feel that way about guards, then they're going to take power forwards, centers, and small forwards just off the strength of the scarcity of those players versus the just how many guards that are available. So I firmly believe that there's no world where Ademar is on the board at 25. Even as a bad free throw shooter and somebody who can only play 22 minutes, I'm still taking him over a 6'2" guard, man. It's just, in this NBA, where I got to deal with Jokic and Wemby, Giannis, and JoJo, and God knows who else is coming into the league as well. I need a center. I need several of them. And so this is a situation where the teams that pass on center depth who don't have any center depth, like Toronto and the Lakers, you're going to get passed up if you keep on disrespecting that center position in these damn drafts. I'll tell you that. You're going to get passed up. So that's what I want to say, man. Definitely an Ademara guy. You can just add him to the list of people that I really like in this draft. As I often do, I mention the names that I've liked a lot so far. Ademara is one of them. Chris Sinak, Alan Graves, Thomas Howell, Braylon Mullins, Lindeborg, Mikael Brown, Keaton Wagler. Those are my favorite players in this draft, I believe. I think I said them all. And there are some other guys that I like a lot that I wouldn't say I'm their guy, like Patrick Gongba, Kareem Lopez, Steinbach. I like Steinbach a lot, actually. Burries, Acuff, Flemings. Those guys are cool. The top four in the category they're on are superstars. If you get them, you change your life. But like the draft for me starts at 5, and with those players that I mentioned, those are the guys that I like the most in this draft, and wouldn't hesitate to take Lindenborg if I didn't mention him already for certain. Definitely, but yeah, that's how that works for me. So just add Ademara to that list. I respect his limitations. That's why I don't take him in the lottery, per se. And I think that he should be playing with other players who are big. So that's why I don't know if you feel like you've lost so much if you don't get him at the Lakers, because I just don't think he should be your primary center. With our center depth, he would fit well with who we have, but I just have my concerns that he's probably only going to play 50 games a season at the most, 50 games a season. So if you don't have center depth around this guy and you're relying upon him to be your only center, I think you're setting yourself up. I really do. I just don't expect him to play as many games as maybe I would hope he would play. But as far as the fit, he fits perfectly. And if he's available at 25, yes, you take him off the board. You live with that, and you continue to work on center depth. But Ademar is the truth, man. His passing ability, his over the his spin move in the post is damn fast too. It reminds me of Shaq's Black Shadow move. Not too many big men spin as fast as Ademar. That's something that I noticed. He spin off you fast, man. He really does have fast feet. For his size, he's not bad with the quick twitch stuff. I'm not saying he's wiry in any way, but for 7'3", he moves well in my opinion. And if he continues to work on his conditioning, which looks like he's already begun to, I think he could be a really good player in this league. I think he could play his way up to starter in this league. And if he goes to the right situation that exploits his passing stuff, suddenly you're talking about somebody who could play their way into like Vlade Divac territory, as it pertains to like a triple-double threat. He's going to pull down boards. He's definitely blocking shots, but he's also going to score, and he's also going to make fantastic plays. So there is a crazy world where a guy like Ademar, because of what it is that he's capable of doing and what he's good at, he could be the guy that gets a quadruple double. I could see a crazy world where he has 10 points, 10 boards, 10 assists, and 10 blocks. I think that he's at his absolute ceiling, capable of double digits in any of those categories. Now, whether it happens all at the same time, of course you don't expect that. But do I think there's a world where he's going to get 10 assists someday? Yeah. If he's playing with talented offensive players and they use him as a passer, yes, he's going to do that one day. Double-digit rebounds should come very easily. Double-digit points should come very easily, though he leaves a lot of points on the board with the free throw stuff, and that can mess with him in a lot of ways. And the blocks, like I said, he's playing volleyball out there. You ain't getting nothing over him. He might be the most talented shot blocker in this draft. You ain't getting nothing over this dude. And I don't think enough has been said about that in the conversations that are said about him. I heard one person say he only gets 2.6 blocks. That's not very impressive. What stats have you been looking at, bro, where 2.6 blocks is not impressive? especially when you consider he has 2 shot blockers next to him. If he's the only shot blocker out there, he's going to average about 4 blocks a night. Do not underestimate Ademara's timing with passes and shot blocking, because he is a fantastic timer of things. And he's only going to get better as his conditioning gets better. So, for me, if I'm being real, man, depending on my situation, based on the homework I've done on some of these players, Ademara doesn't get past 18. He don't get past 18 for me. If I'm Toronto at 20, I gotta take it. That's just what it is. I would love to see him play with Jokic. I think there's a world where he can be a great fill-in for Jokic, and a whole lot of your playmaking doesn't fall off at all. You know what I mean? He's gonna still make some of the same passes that Jokic makes, not at that level, but like that's a skill for both of them. And you talk about big body dudes, heavy dudes. You talk about making yourself absolutely impossible. If I'm the Denver Nuggets, I'm not certain I don't take this guy. When the center that they have backing Jokic up, if I'm not mistaken, didn't even want to play in the league this past year. He wanted to go overseas. So I think the Denver Nuggets, if the Lakers were to pass on him, if Denver stays at 26, they definitely going to take him off the board. So, you know, Atlanta, a lot of people think Atlanta should get a center here. They draft ahead of us. A lot of Atlanta fans want Ademara. So the Lakers, if you find yourself in love with Ademara, you may have to trade up to get him. Man. Or what I'm afraid is going to happen to the Lakers is you're going to have a great pick of Bennett Sturts, Christian Anderson, like Cameron Carr, although I haven't done homework on him, so I have no idea if he's somebody you should be excited about. But I got a feeling you're going to find the Lakers are not going to have the pick of the litter from the center position, even though all these damn centers are going in the 20s and in the late teens. So I'm just worried. We're one of the teams that need the center the most. And I'm concerned we're not going to have a center to choose from. Jaden Quaintance is a guy I think could be available for the Lakers, but I am not excited about Jaden Quaintance. I would take Ademara over Jaden Quaintance twice. I kid you not. I think Quaintance can be awesome. As I mentioned him, you check out the video when we talked about him. He could be awesome with foot speed if the knee is recovered, but the knee hasn't necessarily recovered, so he don't really bring much of nothing. I don't even know if he stays in the first round, if I'm being honest. As explosive as he is, I don't even, with his deficiencies and with his injury stuff, he falls to the second round for me. Based on some of the stuff that I'm learning about the rest of these players, no way. So I think it's realistic that he gets passed on, and Ade and Senak, some of these people, they're gone. You may be able to get Koa Pete, who I have to do more homework on, but like he's a power force. We need a center. If we're gonna draft big, I want a guy who's about 7 feet, man. It's Chris Senak, Ademara, Patrick Gongba. If any of those people on the board for the Lakers, I expect for them to try to do their homework. Do your homework. Do what you feel makes sense. But I really think we should be addressing their center position. I think Toronto should be addressing their center position. I think it would be wise for the Philadelphia 76ers to address their center position. Some say Atlanta. I trust the fans. They say Atlanta. They should probably do that. And I think that Ademara would fit amazingly in Oklahoma. Amazing. And probably pretty well in Denver, too. Chicago wants a center as well. So, like, Ademara's going to be gone, man. I'm just telling myself this already. Even though these mock drafts tell us that we'll have a chance at Mara and the free throw shooting may be a reason, and the idea is that you might not have him on the floor as much as maybe you hope to have him on the floor. That's the key. Between the free throw shooting, the energy stuff, the size, and the idea of injuries coming with the size, that could mean that you have him on the floor significantly less than maybe some of these other teams who are going to draft other players. That might be the thing that leaves him on the board for which the Lakers will be able to get him at 25. That's the hope, is that the rest of these teams just say, you know what, he's just not going to be on the floor that much. So, yeah. And again, if you're the Lakers and you need a center, are you drafting somebody who's not going to be on the floor that much? That's the bottom line. He's going to get played off the floor in open space, so that's another reason why he's not going to be on the floor in certain situations. The free throw shooting is going to leave you, keeping him out of the game in certain situations. The energy stuff, he can only play like 22 minutes in college, probably up that to like 27 minutes. He ain't going to be on the floor. So Ade Mara is not going to be on the floor a lot unless he shores out several things. That is the reason why he may be on the board at 25. Otherwise, he needs to be gone sooner. So that's pretty much what I got to say, man. I got a lot of videos to do today. All these games that are coming up, series that need to be covered. So you're gonna be seeing a lot of me. I'll leave this video here because of it, but I'm excited about both of those prospects. I think they're going to be NBA players, man. This is the best draft I've ever done homework on. It really is. This is the best draft I've seen, maybe ever, as it pertains to just the overall prospects that I expect to stay in the league. Probably a good 80% of this thing I expect to stick around past 5 years. So that's pretty much what I got to say. My name is BDL44. I thank you all for watching.